I had mentioned. Previously, we have spent some time talking about the importance of social infrastructure like rec centers in building stronger and safer communities. Today, I want to talk about some of the other elements of stronger and safer communities, particularly as they relate to safety, housing, addictions, poverty, and the environment. Let's start with safety. Every single Calgarian deserves the opportunity to feel safe in their neighborhood, on the street, at any time of day. Calgary remains one of the safest cities on the planet. Crime rates today are lower than they were when I was a kid. But the last couple of years have seen some troubling changes, partly as a result of the economic downturn, but largely due to the crippling fentanyl crisis. We have seen real spikes in property crimes, break-and-enters, car prowlings, as well as some crimes against people. Well, in 2017, as numbers are starting to turn around and we're seeing some meaningful declines, this remains something we have to focus on. In 2016, I voted to put more boots on the street and increase the Calgary Police Service budget. And now, as we go into the 2018 budget year, we'll have to have a debate about just exactly what the Calgary Police Service requires. They put forth a proposal for hiring 55 new officers, one that I think is pretty reasonable, and I'm happy to bring forward to Council if re-elected for that discussion. But safety is also about more than just the police. One of the things that our police service is really great at is community partnerships, community-based policing, ensuring that safety is the responsibility of all of us, not just people in uniform, working with nonprofit organizations, working with kids at risk, working with schools to ensure all of us feel safe. We're world leading in that, and we have to make sure that we don't cut those services, and we have to make sure that we continue to deliver on a safe community for everyone. We also have to have a very serious discussion around housing. For years, federal and provincial governments have been reneging on their commitment to build affordable housing and to refurbish existing housing. And that's meant that we've had a real waiting list and a real lack of housing units. Good news is both federal and provincial governments have started to put some real money on the table. And our job as a city, working with our nonprofit housing provider partners, is to make sure that money gets deployed, units get built, and people get to live in them. This year, we've opened a number of new units through the Calgary Housing Company, as well as assisted nonprofit housing providers throughout the community like Horizon and Accessible Housing to be able to move forward with their projects as well. And as we move to a new national and provincial housing strategy, we have to make sure that's aligned with our local housing strategies to both build units for people that need them, to address the chronic shortage of affordable housing units, as well as to refurbish our existing units so they remain safe and decent places to live. We made a commitment to end homelessness in this city, and a big part of that is to ensure affordable housing. And that is something that we need to continue to work on to get those units built. Addiction is a very serious issue in Calgary. The fentanyl crisis is almost indescribable in its proportions. Every single week, we lose 3 Calgarians to overdose. Some of them die on the street downtown, but many more of them die in rec rooms and kitchens and living rooms and cars and basements in every single neighborhood of the city. Fentanyl doesn't discriminate. These people are of every age, they're of both genders, they're of every income level, they come from all kinds of families. But we lose more people to overdose in Calgary than we lose to car collisions and violent crime combined. We've got to have a strategy. And the good news is we do. We have to work in an integrated way on 4 things: prevention, treatment, enforcement, and harm reduction. It means going after the pushers. It means working hard to get people off of the pathways that get them addicted in the first place. It means ensuring we've got funding for treatment beds. And it also means harm reduction, including supervised consumption sites, to keep people alive. This isn't easy, but we have to understand that our primary goal needs to be to keep people alive and to help them get better. Supervised consumption sites can be controversial, but the evidence is very clear. I don't love them. I feel like they're an admission that we failed as a community, but the evidence is crystal clear. They keep people alive, and saving lives is always our number 1 priority. So a community-based response to addiction means keeping people alive and helping them get better. One of the most meaningful things that I've been able to accomplish as mayor was in spearheading, along with some amazing community volunteers, Calgary's first ever poverty reduction strategy. And one of my proudest moments was when Council unanimously endorsed this strategy called Enough for All. We have to make sure that the prosperity of this place is shared, that low-income people have the opportunity to participate fully in this community. So we've done a number of things, and we've got a number of things left to do around the establishment of community hubs, one-stop shops for people to get access to the resources and services they need, as well as the program called Fair Entry, which allows low-income Calgarians in a dignified way accessing subsidized or reduced fee programs across the city, from spaying and neutering to recreation programs. The most important of those is the low-income transit pass. Calgary was the first city to have a low-income transit pass, and last year, thanks to some help from the provincial government, we were able to expand that pass using a sliding scale. So if you're very low income, then less than 50% of the poverty line, then you can actually ride transit unlimited for as little as $5 a month. This program is essential. It gets people to school, it gets them to work, it gets them to medical appointments, into the store, and most important, it ends social isolation. So we've got to continue to fund these programs, and we've got to continue to make sure that every Calgarian living in poverty has the ability right here, right now, to live a great Canadian life. One of the most important things any city can do is related to the environment. It's about safeguarding our land, our air, and our water. The city has made great strides in this. Our climate change programs are very good. We've met our international obligations. We use renewable energy, and we have an excellent environmental record. But we need to do more to safeguard this place for future generations. In terms of land, we do a great job on waste and recycling. The rollout of the green cart is really going to help us reduce our reliance on landfills, as well as reducing methane gas in the atmosphere, which is all something that is easy for us to do and important for us to do. In terms of air, we're making the largest investments in history in public transit, in other programs that will help us make sure that we can see those great big blue Alberta skies and breathe fresh and clean air for generations to come. And in water, we're very proud of our work on water. Calgary today uses as much water as it did 30 years ago, much less per capita. We've invested in what is probably one of the best water treatment and wastewater treatment systems in the world, certainly much better than other cities. It's been very expensive, but it has been an investment that is well worthwhile. And we can't talk about water without talking about flood mitigation. We have to make sure that the upstream flood mitigation on both the Elbow and the Bow gets built. We have to give the province the political will they need in order to make things happen, and we have to make sure we're safeguarding our city from the tragedy of future flooding.